Hi, it's Wendy. I want to help you with something that I think is really valuable and really important, and that is your memory. I know so many people have problems with their memory, and they always say, I can't remember names. I'm just so bad with names. Or anything I study, it just flies out of my brain and I can't remember it, or I have test anxiety when I have to take a test or I have to recall something. I have worked with people who really need to have sharp mental skills and great recall. But here's one of the things that I find most fascinating about my Memory Magic program. There's something in there called mind machines. And mind machines are something you create in your brain to help you to know where this information is stored. Because our brains compartmentalize information, and we can create something that links to this information so you can recall it easily. And you know you do this all the time anyway. There's things that you see that remind you of something else, even if it's unrelated, but it's right there when your brain is triggered to follow a path to that piece of information. So when you sit down to study for an exam or study for something at work, you want to make sure that you're in the right mindset and that you're setting yourself up with these mind machines. So one of the uses that I worked with a woman who was going to take the bar exam, and the bar exam is very, very difficult from what I've heard. We created specific things in her brain that compartmentalized the different aspects of the bar exam. For instance, one of the pieces was torts. And she made that one a certain color and a texture. So it was very specific that if she needed the information about torts, it was in that compartment. And then another one might have been legal rulings or something. We made that compartment a certain color and shape and texture. And so she had all of these that some needed to link together as well. And we built this whole thing to help her remember that. It was really cool because this is how our brain likes to have good memories and good recall. Now, another way that I used the mind machines was when I was working in San Francisco on the options floor with a group of traders. Now, these traders on the floor, they're in the pits. You know, they used to be in the pits. Now I think it's all electronic. But they're in the pits, yelling and screaming and trying to make bids and sells and offers. When the broker comes into the pit, they have to immediately look at the TV monitors that are up there, and they have to compare the latest numbers, which have unlike fractions in them. They have to compare that and get the difference so they know what they're going to do as they're shouting and screaming. Well, they might have to find the difference between 3 and 3/16 and 6 and 1/8 or something like that instantly. Well, it's a process that's kind of difficult. So when they were in the office, I built mind machines to help their brains do that unconsciously. Because of course, unconsciously, we can do so much more than we can when we're trying, when we're putting effort in. The way I did this is I had them close their eyes and relax and make two fields, kind of like on a computer. So there's a field here and a field here. And in this circle, it has a certain color and texture, but the first number is going to automatically go into that circle. So if it says 4 and 3/16, it goes there. And then the other number you're looking at is immediately going to go into the other circle. So if it's 1 and 2/8, 1.5 or whatever it is, goes into that circle. And then we create another field that is the answer field. So the difference between these two immediately comes up in that answer field. Well, we did this as a test while they had their eyes closed. And what I did was I would call out the two different numbers pretty quickly, and then the answer coming up there. And they would just verbalize the answer really quickly, and I was writing it down. So I did this with each of the traders one at a time, and I had a whole list of all their answers. And then I gave the sheet to one of the men and said, I'm not very good at subtracting unlike fractions, so I need you to see if these are correct. And it was interesting that he had a little trouble doing the math. It took him quite a bit of time to actually manually subtract this from this to see if his answer was correct. But when we did it with the hypnosis using the mind machines, his answers were just really fast. Turned out that I think there were maybe 10 or 12 of the equations that I gave him. Every one of them was correct, even though consciously he had a bit of a struggle finding out if the answers were correct. So now this worked with all the traders, every one of them. When they got on the floor, they did so much better and they were so much quicker because they didn't have to laboriously go through trying to find the sum of these subtraction problems. Isn't that fascinating? I just love that. We can use mind machines for almost anything. Now, I've done this for kids who have trouble with either multiplication or subtraction or addition. And the way that the kids will do it is maybe it's your multiplication memorization that's needed. So we take two fields and we make sure that the child visualizes them with their eyes closed as a certain color. So the first one might be red, the next one might be blue. And I'd ask what color it is or what shape it is and make sure we've got it. And then there's another field below that's going to light up with the correct answer. So now if I'm saying, okay, what's 4 times 3? And we make the answer pop up as 12, so it's correct. And then we go through many of these and go 8 times 8, and we make sure it pops up the right answer. And then start going faster and say 6 times 4, and the child says 24. And 8 times 2, the child says 16. Well, when you do this, the child has a way to immediately access the function of multiplication memorization. Another way that I've done this is making a machine for spelling. And children or adults who have trouble spelling, they usually have learned incorrectly. They've learned to do spelling by an auditory process. They hear the word and they're trying to sound it out. Spelling is a visual problem, not a problem, it's a visual skill. When you see a word, the reason you can read really well and really fast and you recognize that word is the picture of that word, the shape of that word. If you learn to spell auditorily, you don't have a picture of that word in your brain. The machine that I created, and I started it with kids, is that there was this just one machine, and when I would say the word, if I said the word candy, they would imagine putting that word into the machine in one side, and then out the other side is the correct spelling of it. And I would say, tell me what it says. And they go C-A-N-D-Y. Well, the point of this is to get them to hear the word, but turn it into an image so that their brain is looking at the image of that word. And it was like, one of the interesting ones was a young girl who was African American. I put the word Africa into the machine and she puts it in, and when it came out, I said, what is it? What's the word? And she said, well, it doesn't look right because one of the words is a different color than the other, or one of the letters is a different color than one of the others. And I said, well, spell it out for me. And she said, A-F-R-I-C-K-A. And I said, which letter is different? She says the K. The K is has got multiple colors and the others are all red. And I said, oh, well, let's take the K out of there. And she did. She says, oh, okay, now it's all right. So now she's storing a picture of that word. Now, when you're doing spelling, and those of you who have trouble with spelling, changing it to a visual process is what you need. And your brain already knows how to spell all these words. You've seen them thousands and thousands of times. It's just that your brain is searching in the wrong place, and it's searching auditorily to change that to letters. So you take a word like naughty. If you're trying to spell auditorily, that doesn't make any sense because there's so many letters in that word that should not be part of that word. So that's what you need to do to fix your spelling problem as an adult or a child. And that program is in the Speed Read Spell Well program. It will teach your brain to read the words as pictures. Because each letter and each shape, it makes its own really specific visual, and that's how good readers read and how you can speed read. So there you have that. And if you need help working on mind machines, get the memory program. It is really, really good, and it helps you with remembering names. There's a session just for that. And for the mind machines, of course, retaining information. So you have to retain it when you study. So you would listen to a session before you study, and then you would have it going into better places for the way your brain's going to store the information, and then to have instant recall. So when you're taking a test, you have an anchor, and sometimes I suggest that it's like an eraser on a pencil, or it's something you're holding in your hand that when you rub that, it brings up the instant recall. And the other session is test anxiety. So if you have test anxiety, we're going to get it done. Get it out of here. You'll have no more test anxiety. Totally relaxing you, and also making a trigger so that when you go to take the test, you're going to feel calm and relaxed, and the answers will come to you. Because gosh, having test anxiety is just horrible, isn't it? Yeah. Because you know the information, and you've got to get up there and take an exam, or you have a level of something at work that you have to pass an exam for, and you're sweating it out, and you're so worried, and yeah, that doesn't work. We know that. So anyway, get the Memory Magic program. You can find it at wendi.com, wendi.com, and just search for memory on that page. Or if there's text below this video, go to that text, and there's a link there and a coupon code, and you can get 20% off today on the Memory Magic program. And that's all you need to do. Oh, the code, of course. The code, cleverly, is memory. How about that? Huh? Okay, so the code's memory, 20% off. Link's right down there. If you don't see a link, go to wendi.com with an I, and just go to the little search box up in the right corner and look for memory, and you'll have it. All right. Yay. I'm so glad I'm going to fix your memory and your spelling problems and your reading problems, and you're going to be happier. All right. Bye-bye. High five.